Hello, hello, hello. You guys saw the thumbnail. Fox News know they can be embarrassing. This they just love to embarrass this country by the way they keep treating Al-Sayed. El-Sayed. And I don't say that because Jesse Waters asked him these complicated questions, right? He didn't do that. El-Sayed is running for U.S. Senate from Michigan. So somebody absolutely should ask him the hard questions, right? What embarrasses me is that this is 2026. Fox News gets more than 20 minutes with a fellow American who could become a United States citizen, a senator. Senator. And instead of making the interview primarily about what this man could actually do for the state of Michigan and what this man can do for the United States, we get the same tired ass garbage about right-wing culture wars and fears, including Sharia law, transgender people, Colin Kaepernick, and reparations and ICE and all this, everything else they apparently found lying around in the kitchen sink that they could throw at this man. At some point, this stops looking like an effort to understand a candidate and this candidate's positions. And it starts looking like they're trying to embarrass a candidate, embarrass an American, and then try to make him seem as though we should be afraid of this person. He talks like an American to me. He looks like any other American to me. Just because he practices Islam, just because he's a Muslim, doesn't mean he has to be scary. There's plenty of Muslims in the United States. And there's plenty of people. I'm not Catholic and I'm not Muslim. I don't want nobody trying to make me afraid of Muslims. I don't want nobody trying to make me afraid of Catholics. And I don't want people trying to convert me to Muslim and to convert me to Catholicism. I want to establish something before we watch any of this. Sayed ain't some foreign politician who flew into this country to tell Americans how to live. That's not what he's trying to do. He's an American. He was born in this country. He grew up in Michigan, and he is running to be Michigan's senator of the United States. You can agree with every policy that man has or not. I don't care whether you ever vote for that man or not, but his Muslim faith doesn't make him a visiting guest in this country. He is an American just like everybody else. That is important because the very beginning of this interview tells you how Abdul sees himself and how he approaches Jesse Waters. He starts by talking about what they have in common. So let me show you this clip.
You said getting rid of Sharia law was white supremacy. Let's roll the tape. Go.
I don't have to tell you that the same exact forces that drove native peoples from their land 2 centuries ago, destroyed Black Wall Street a century ago, bombed a building decades ago, and tried to ban Sharia law not a decade ago, those forces are alive and well today.
So getting rid of Sharia law is white supremacy. Can you explain that one?
Do you know what canon law is? Jesse, I assume you're Christian, right?
Yeah, tell me.
All right, so canon law is the name for Christian law. I don't begrudge you your right to practice your faith as you choose. I don't know why the idea that I could practice my faith as I choose is a problem. Nobody is trying to push Sharia law on anyone else, just like I hope nobody is trying to push canon law on anybody else, because we live in an America where you should have the freedom of your religion. So,
right. Where you should have the freedom of your religion. And I don't have any problem with Jesse challenging him on Iran and healthcare, taxes, or immigration, or anything else that affects the job Abdul wants to do. Matter of fact, the first clip is it's a long interview, and it starts with legitimate political positions. It does, and this is exactly why Fox ought to just stick with the political talking points. Make him explain himself. Make him explain his answers. If his answers are bad for Michigan, challenge those answers. If his numbers don't work, show us that they don't work. Okay. If his ideas are too far to the left for Michigan, Mike Rogers ought to be able to make that argument without needing anybody to be afraid of the man's religion, right? What bothers me is watching the interview move away from that, move away from the kind of scrutiny into a familiar Fox talking point when it comes to cultural gripes. The country is going down the tubes. The country is losing farmers, losing jobs, losing trust in the world, losing oil. The country is going down the tubes. Shut the fuck up about culture wars. Shut the fuck up about transgender. Shut the fuck up about somebody being a Muslim who's born here. This country is going down the tools, going down the chute, the garbage chute, hell in a handbasket. Gas prices, food prices, education, war, all these things. And the only thing y'all can think to bring up is, what about transgenders in sports? This is where I see Fox. Hold on. Let me play this clip.
Just want to start where we agree. We both played football and lacrosse. We both love America. We both love freedom. But I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. We'll see how much we agree on. I know I don't agree with you on this. You want to abolish ICE. Who's going to deport the criminal aliens from the country?
They concerned about deporting the aliens from the country. See, I look at this country as having a priority list. Deporting people is not the first and the be all to get this country back on track. This is where I start seeing what Fox is doing. Fox ain't concerned about what the state of the country. We have a candidate for United States Senate sitting there, and instead of staying on the topic of Michigan and what the next Michigan senator should be doing for Michigan, the conversation starts bouncing through the issues that Fox knows produces an emotional response from the goofy audience of theirs. That this matters because there's a difference between asking a candidate about his record and building an interview around the subjects that most likely make your candidate alienate your candidate, alienate this candidate from your audience. That's what Fox News tries to do. Abdul is a Muslim. He's a Democrat. So every time the conversation moves through religion, cultural identity, and the standard right-wing boogeyman, Fox ain't just testing the policy. They understand that they have made their audience afraid of Muslims, religion, Democrats, because I can tell from the conversation that I have in my chat. These people have no clue what a Democrat is supposed to do. They have no clue what a Democrat socialist do. They have no clue about a Muslim, probably ain't never met no Muslim, ain't did none of that. Fox News has helped to construct that image of the boogeyman Muslim person. And then we get to the part that I think is genuinely embarrassing for this whole country. We get to that Sharia law thing. Now, remember where we started, right? Sayed began this interview talking about he and Jesse both loved America, football, freedom, blah, 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 right? A few minutes later, this fellow American is having to explain what his Muslim faith means and why practicing it ain't the same thing as trying to impose Islamic law on everybody else. And this is the garbage that Fox News is good at.
And I want to just finish my point, okay?
Yeah.
If the only answer that Mike Rogers and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have to this economy is to point to me and say there are scary words associated with him, I'm just going to tell you those scary words are not raising gas prices or keeping you from seeing your doctor. I'm interested in getting money out of politics, putting money in your pocket, passing Medicare for all. And I think that actually will solve problems in Michigan.
I'm not scared of you,
If you think
Abdul. I just think you're a little
my name
misguided.
or running against my faith is going to fix problems, go ahead.
No, I just played what you said.
See, this is the part that should make Americans uncomfortable, right? And not because El-Sayed said something frightening. It should make us uncomfortable because in 2026, we still are doing this Muslim American bullshit. Abdul's argument is basically that Jesse has the right to practice according to his Catholic faith. Abdul should have the right to practice according to his Muslim faith. And neither one of them gets to impose that belief on anybody else. I don't want you trying to force feed me Catholic nothing. Don't try to stuff your Catholic bullshit down my throat. Don't try to stuff your Muslim bullshit down my throat. Okay? Don't try to do that. You shouldn't impose your faith on anybody. That is what that is why we fled Britain. Religious terrorism. I could have sworn America had already had a name for that. It was called religious freedom. What exactly is the emergency here, right? Where's Abdul's proposal to replace Michigan law with Sharia law? Where has that been proposed? Where's his campaign promise to replace the Constitution with the Quran? It ain't there. It ain't nowhere there, anywhere near there. He's American just like everybody else. Yet somehow an American citizen running for an American office is sitting on American television having to reassure Americans, goofy, dumbass Americans, because Fox News made you dumb. If you listen to Fox News, then you're dumbed down in America. Somehow this person has to sit on television and reassure Americans that his Muslim faith ain't coming to get him. Then Jesse tells him that nobody's asking him to get rid of his religion. Well, thank you, Jesse. Thank you very much, Jesse. That's mighty fucking white of you, generous of you, Catholic of you. I'm sure Abdul was relieved to discover that the First Amendment was still operational and that Fox News had decided he could keep being a Muslim. Now imagine we routinely did this to Christian candidates, okay? Let's imagine we did this to y'all Christians. Imagine every Christian Republican running for office having to stop halfway through an interview and reassure America that he ain't planning to replace federal law with the Bible. Imagine every Catholic candidate having to explain that canon law ain't coming to Michigan. People would immediately understand why that was insulting. Because we generally allow Christian politicians to be Christians without assuming that the religion itself is a potential takeover of the government. We normally assume that. So why would we assume that El-Sayed would bring his Muslim religion into the government? Why would we assume that? Muslim politicians deserve the same presumption. If Abdul says something about religion that affects policy, question him about it. But his religion itself should not function as evidence against that man. And this is where I think Fox and the larger right-wing political machines are doing something more serious than trying to win an election. They're keeping alive the idea that some Americans are more naturally American than others. There are no more Americans than anybody else. Abdul is just as much an American as I am. He's just as much an American as white people are. Okay? Certain people get to walk into the room and simply belong. Oh, we just belong here. We Christian, we white, we just belong here. While somebody like El-Sayed has to keep proving that he loves America, respects the Constitution, and ain't secretly planning to overthrow nothing. How many times does a person born in this country have to take that test before we finally admit that the test itself is the problem? Okay? I watched America use different versions of this game for a long time. Black people were told that if we got educated, we worked hard, raised families, spoke correctly, and did everything America's told us to, we would be respected people. If we did what we were supposed to do, we would be on the same playing field, and race wouldn't matter. Bullshit. Because we were doing everything we needed to do in the 40s and 30s and the 20s and the 100s. We were doing all of those things that we were supposed to do, and we still hate it. And people keep saying, oh, it's your culture. It's your culture. We have a problem with your culture. No, you don't. You're a fucking lie. It's a skin. Because we were doing what we were supposed to do in the 30s and 40s, and we were hated then. And we're hated now. So, no, it has nothing to do with culture. It has everything to do with skin. Okay? Then Barack Obama became president. Harvard educated, married, 2 kids, no personal scandal ever. And the man was so controlled that people managed to turn his tan suit into a problem. Even after he became president, people were still demanding that he prove that he was from America. Apparently, becoming president wasn't enough identification. And don't tell me the way people emphasize Barack Hussein Obama, even now, even to this day, had nothing to do with it making it sound foreign or Muslim. Nobody suddenly became fascinated with presidential middle names. Hussein was useful because it created an association to Muslim. It made everybody who was plainly American sound like maybe he wasn't quite one of us. El-Sayed is dealing with a different version of that same suspicion. His name sounds different to Americans. His religion is different to a lot of Americans. And suddenly the question underneath the politics becomes whether there's something about him we ought to fear. That ain't a healthcare debate. That ain't an economic debate. That is an identity politics debate coming from people who spend half their lives complaining about identity politics. Make it make sense. The strategy becomes even clearer later in this interview with Abdul, describing what he thinks Republicans are doing to him. He calls them scary words. And I think that phrase is important because fear is political capital. Explaining healthcare is difficult. Explaining tax policy requires numbers. Explaining why your economic plan is better than your opponent's take time. But attaching a frightening word to somebody takes about 3 seconds, and Fox News does this embarrassingly well. Let me play this clip.
So the question, so again, like Jesse, you have not asked me one time about the issues that people actually care about in Michigan. You don't want to talk about gas prices. You don't want to talk about groceries. You don't want to talk about healthcare. You don't want to talk about the stupid trade war that's about to destroy Michigan.
We spent the whole interview talking about that stuff.
That's destroying, that is destroying our own military. You don't seem to want to talk about any of those things. You want to bring up all this culture war that, you know, I'm not here to
We
fight
talked about the war, we talked about gas prices and the Green New Deal, okay? If you want to do an interview,
I'll them up every time.
You can do the interview,
You're
okay?
asking me, like, you're doing the greatest hits, Jesse. Like, I mean, this is, like, you can play this game if you want, but, like, you can keep doing the greatest hits if you want. You told me we were going to come on for a conversation, and when we have conversations, I think it's okay to also ask questions. I just want to understand what you're getting at here.
What he's getting at there is you're a Muslim, and he wants his audience to be afraid of you. And that's how Republicans win over Republican MAGA people, whoever. Oh, yeah, this is the problem with Democrats. Democrats like trans. Democrats like Muslims. Democrats like socialism. All of those are culture war problems. Those have nothing to do with the problem we have in this country. And the problem with these what's happening in this country is what is bogging us down and making us turn into something that we don't want to turn into. Okay, this is the strategy that Abdul is trying to describe to him. If you want to talk about culture wars, that's a different thing. But I'm on here to talk about affordability. I'm on here talking about what the American people want. If you can make the person scary enough, maybe you don't have to make better arguments. Muslim, radical, Sharia, socialist. Keep stacking the words until some voters start hearing American doctor running for Senate and start hearing something foreign and dangerous. This is what they do. This is what Fox News do. That's why Fox News is the propaganda arm of the right wing. They're embarrassing. And they're not news show. They're not really a news show. They're an informational show. They're like, I don't know, one of these sit down talk shows. That's all it is. Okay. But I want somebody to explain how being afraid of Abdul lowers your grocery bill. How does worrying about Sharia law lower your gas bill? How does being suspicious of a Muslim American get your mother into a doctor's office quicker or lower the price of her prescriptions? How does that work? It doesn't, and that is exactly why fear is such a convenient political substitute for policy, for the Republican policy, because they have no policies. Republicans never have any policies. They have culture wars. They have culture grievances. You talk to a Republican in my chat right now, and the first thing they will bring up is at least 5 of those culture war things and don't have no policy. can't name no policy, don't know no policy, ain't had no effect on their life in policy, none. Just will talk about the culture wars. Oh, they don't even know what a woman is. That's the first thing one of them to say. Oh, we don't want no trans in sports. Just goofy shit. And our country is going down the fucking tubes, but they worried about what the fuck I got between my legs. This ain't me saying voters shouldn't examine Abdul's record. That's not what I'm saying. Don't let's not get that clear. Examine his record. He wants to be a senator. No, so nobody's favorite uncle. If he's wrong, say he's wrong. If he dodges a question, call him on getting dodged in the question. If Mike Rogers has a better plan for Michigan, then Mike Rogers should put a plan in front of the United States and beat Abdul with that plan. Don't tell me that you're better for America and the only thing I hear from you is fucking transgender shit. And you ain't got no plan. But if the argument keeps circling back to making Abdul culturally frightening, I start wondering whether the people attacking him have enough confidence in their own ideas to win without fear-mongering. And then Fox News moves into another one of its favorite cultural subjects. And this is where you can see how quickly a Senate interview gets pulled away from Michigan and towards the issues Fox News knows keeps his readership going, keeps his viewership going. Let me play this clip.
It's a big issue
because, like, I
you guys kind of lost on that issue last time.
Deserve to hear about.
All right, so you want to answer that question?
What issue?
You want to answer the question?
What issue? Go ahead, Justin. What issue?
Should men play women's sports? You have daughters, right?
I think that. Look, I played sports my whole life. Sports were an important part of my life. I'm grateful for the opportunity to play sports. And at the end of the day, the decision of who gets to play what sports ought to be decided by the people who govern sports. I'm running for U.S. Senate. Jesse, it's insane. I'm out here trying to take on, like, the healthcare crisis in Big Pharma, and you're asking me about who gets to play what sports. It's silly.
I don't know. It's kind of a big thing if you've been following the news recently.
No, it's not a kind of a big thing. It's only a big thing on the right wing. It's only a big thing on the right side because the right side listens to Fox News and listens to the garbage and they don't engage in what's going on in the world. They engage in culture stuff. Oh, well, 1360 and black people commit 60% of the crime. And then we got trans people and then we got people, Muslims, and we got Sharia law. Right wing people, Republican people indulge in that kind of bullshit. Us on the left don't indulge in that kind of bullshit. We only indulge in the policy. We care about the policy. We care about the corruption. We care about those things. Okay, that's what we care about. Eventually, that question continues to get asked to him over and over again. What do you think about trans? He gets to the point where he tells Jesse he hasn't asked him any of the pertinent questions that Michigans are worried about. And I get that. Abdul starts naming gas prices, groceries, healthcare, and all that other stuff. This is important. This is an important moment in this show because he ain't asking Jesse to stop challenging him. He is asking Jesse to challenge him about the damn job he's running for. If I'm asking Michigan to send me to Washington, ask me what I'm going to do when I get to Washington. Why am I worried about transgender sports? It has nothing to do with what I want to do and what I want to do for the people of Michigan. And that clip right there is why I say Fox News ended up embarrassing itself. Abdul is trying to call Jesse, is trying to call Jesse out. Well, in a good way, he's trying to call Jesse out, okay? He's trying to tell Jesse, I'm worried about what the Michigan people think. I'm not worried about transgender sports. I'm not worried about any of that goofy shit. I'm worried about what's going on with the people in Michigan, okay? Whether these people can afford health care and what's happening with their jobs, the farmers, while Jesse keeps trying to drag the conversation back to culture, war territory. In the full exchange, after Abdul complains about the focus of the issues, Jesse returns to the transgender sports question, which you just heard, while Abdul tries again to talk about the healthcare, Big Pharma, and all those other things. You almost couldn't write a better demonstration of Abdul's complaint. The man says you're doing culture war stuff, and the response is basically, okay, but before we stop, one more culture war question. That doesn't mean Jesse lost every argument or Abdul answered every question perfectly. That's not that's not the thing. That's not the answer. I don't need to turn Abdul into Superman either to make his point. What I saw was a political media operation trying to repeatedly to push the Muslim Democratic agenda because their Fox News audience liked it, okay, and tried to make their candidate, trying to make this candidate radical when this candidate is nowhere near being radical. He's nowhere near being radical, okay? He's an everyday, normal human being, American, right? He's an everyday, ordinary American, okay? Fox may have thought that would expose Abdul this interview. And I think, see, what they don't get is Abdul is a very savvy talker. He's a very savvy a person in front of the camera. He gets all the angles that you're going to come to him at. He gets his policy. He understands his policy. He understands how his policy relates to people. He understands how his policy is going to come across to the American people. He understands that. This is what makes Abdul a very good speaker, because he understands the intricacies of what he's arguing. I think it may have been an accident to have him on the show, and it might have accidentally helped him to be on Fox News, because Americans got to sit there for more than 20 minutes and watch this supposed frightened Muslim guy behave fairly normal, just like a regular, ordinary American citizen. He laughed and he argued and he pushed back, gave some good answers, gave some bad answers, tried to redirect questions, and kept talking about Mexican, which is what he should have did. In other words, he behaved like politicians have behaved in hostile television interviews since somebody first put a camera in front of their face. The scary Muslim character Fox needed never actually showed up. That's why Fox News is terrible. Saeed showed up instead, and that's inconvenient when your political strategy works better if people are afraid of somebody before they actually listen to him. Saeed did his thing. That brings me back to the part of this that bothers me, though. This is a fellow American that they're trying to do this to. I keep saying that because we have developed a strange habit in this country of talking about Muslim Americans as though Muslims part somehow weakens the American part. It doesn't. If El-Sayed ain't an American, despite being born here, lived here, absorbed our culture and all of those things, I don't understand who is American, who's even more American. He seems more American to me. The Constitution doesn't have a preferred customer line for Christians. The Constitution doesn't take Christians ahead of Muslims, ahead of anybody. And I don't want anybody voting for El-Sayed because he's a Muslim either. That would be just foolish. Vote for him because you think his policies are better. Put the policies right next to somebody else's policies and critique them. Okay? Mike Rogers. If you believe Mike Rogers would make a better senator, then vote for Mike Rogers. Have Mike Rogers put his policies on the table. Have a debate and see whose policies are better. That's democracy. What I reject is the idea that Abdul's religion should become a political warning label attached to his name before voters even get to know his policies. This is also why the rhetoric outside a single Fox interview matters. When Muslim candidates are described with language designed to connect them to extremism or terrorism without evidence, it doesn't stay neatly contained within that one little interview. I heard them talking about El-Sayed on other channels like he's a scary dude. Like he's scared. Oh, he practiced Muslim. He's a Muslim. Islam, blah, 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 blah. This is an ugly message for a country that claims anybody can grow up and participate in this democracy. And the Republicans ought to think carefully about what they're normalizing, because religious freedom ain't valuable only when your religion is a majority religion. Matter of fact, the entire point of protecting religious freedom is that majority doesn't get to decide which minority faith is sufficiently comfortable to deserve it. If your commitment to religious freedom disappears the minute people start exercising it is named Abdul or Barack Hussein Obama, then you didn't believe in religious freedom at all in the first place. You believed in protecting your own fucking religion. Okay? That is why I call this embarrassing. Fox News is embarrassing for America. We ought to be past this bullshit. These Muslims are American. He is a Muslim American doctor who practices his Islam. But he's an American doctor. Okay? How many generations are supposed to pass before we stop introducing Muslims to America like somebody discovered a new species Thursday? You can criticize Islam, criticize Christianity too, criticize every religion, Jewish religion, however you want to do it. This is America, and people have the right to criticize ideas. But there's a difference between criticizing somebody's beliefs and using those beliefs to suggest that the person himself don't fully belong here. Abdul shouldn't have to prove that he's safe before he can prove that he's qualified for the job. Those are two completely different standards, and we ought to be embarrassed. Fox News needs to be embarrassed anytime we confuse the two. So when I look at the Fox News interview, I don't come away feeling sorry for Abdul. He doesn't need my pity. He walked away from Fox News voluntarily. He held his own, and in that seat, he handed Jesse Waters his ass. What I come away questioning is why one of the largest political media platforms in this country still thinks this kind of questioning and cultural baiting is useful in 2026. Why are we still trying to frighten Americans with other Americans instead of forcing politicians to explain what they're going to do with the enormous power that we are supposed to give them as senators? If Abdul's Medicare for All plan is bad, expose it as bad. If his economic policies don't work, prove it. If his immigration policies are wrong, challenge those. If his foreign policy positions would hurt the U.S. country, make him defend those U.S. policies, those policies. I would actually like to hear more of that, because those are the things Michigan people will live with if this man becomes their senator, right? But don't spend your time making this man's Muslim identity part of the danger and then pretend we're having a normal policy discussion. We have been watching this country play that game with minorities for far too fucking long. Our country is in trouble with gas prices, food prices, war, immigration, you name it. Our country is in peril. Stop bringing up culture war stuff that don't matter. We need to get these prices under control. Ultimately, El-Sayed ain't asking Fox News for permission to be a Muslim, and he damn sure ain't asking anybody for permission to be American, right? He already is an American. Michigan voters get to decide whether they want him in the U.S. Senate or not. Okay? And because he's a Muslim American, that still means he's an American. And he belongs in the Senate just like anybody else, even including somebody named Mike, John, Lindsay, or Ted. That ain't radical Islam. That's not something radical. It's not Sharia law. Him going in there is not Sharia law. That ain't some foreign takeover of the United States Senate. This is American democracy working exactly the way American democracy should work. This is the way it should work. So if you see El-Sayed, I can't say that name correctly. El-Sayed. So if you see El-Sayed in the United States Senate and you think it frightens somebody, challenge yourself to explain exactly what you're frightened of. If it's his policies, then we have something legitimate to debate. But if you keep digging and eventually discover that you think Muslims make you uncomfortable, his faith makes you uncomfortable, or the fact that he's a Muslim American might hold some political power or some danger, then the problem ain't Abdul El-Sayed. And in 2026, America ought to be grown enough to admit that you fall for the culture war bullshit that has been propagated by Fox News. A lot of y'all have listened to Fox News and you have been brainwashed with the Fox News talking points. A lot of y'all have. But that's my show. Please hit the like and the share, subscribe button. Please and thank you. Please and thank you. Let me look at the comments in the comment section. Please and thank you for those. Please and thank you all for those. Okay. Hi, you. How are you, you? I'm in the middle of my presentation. Hi, how you doing? Woman, you're old enough to remember gas prices being worse. No, they weren't worse, not terrible. See, that's what you don't get, Lord Naroki. Those prices were because of COVID. Why y'all don't never understand that? I don't understand. Please don't make comments if you don't know what you're talking about. Please make comments if you don't know what you're talking about. That's the crazy part, though. Immigration is still one of those subject matters that needs addressing. It don't need addressing as much as the war needs addressing. It don't need addressing as much as high gas prices need addressing. It don't need addressing as much as just beef being imported needs to be addressed. It doesn't need to be addressed as much as those things. So stop it. ICE is going after legal immigrants and U.S. citizens. Yes, we've heard that. There is zero evidence of your claims pointing to intentionally targeted citizens. Talk to you. If your visa runs out of your status as resident is removed, you are now to be removed. That's the basic law. Republicans, Democrats, wholesale grid. Well, we understand that. This is this immigrant. This is this administration doing this. There's a massive disconnect in comparing Christianity to Islam in America. The country is underpinned by Christian values, not Islamic values. And those value systems, it doesn't matter whether they're drastically opposite. Our founding fathers said we have religious freedom to practice whatever religion we want to. So this person can practice being Islam if having Islam if they want to. It has nothing to do with Christian values. Christian values is not the religion of the land. So stop it. Thank you, President Trump, for making our country. I don't know how you thought he made our country safer. I don't understand how you thought that. The problem, the danger ain't from immigrants. The danger is from you can't explain it to these people. If you wanted to, you can't explain it. Go see Europe. These people can't be in power. No. I'm old enough to remember gas prices being less than $1 and remember gas prices and take yeah, sure. This is not typical up and down market. This is because of the Strait of Hormuz closing directly. Stop it. And the only reason why our gas prices are lower than what they lower than normal, is because President Trump has drained our oil reserves. The president has drained our oil reserves. He has been supplementing the market. That's why we have lower gas prices. Other than that, we wouldn't have lower gas prices. We were fine with Biden 20% inflation. That only makes sense. He never had inflation at 20%. That's at least 60% higher than what it was. Go read somewhere, honestly, for real. Socialism doesn't work. No, socialism does work. We have socialism in this country right now. Parts of our system is socialism. Please start reading. The New Deal that saved the United States from the Great Depression was a socialist. Yeah, please explain it to him. Please explain it to Joseph Colella. Explain some of that to them. Another uneducated class. Yeah, definitely. You please need to talk to Joseph Canella, another uneducated clown, of course. That's why you should talk to people in the chat. Social Security, that was it. It was World War II that got us out of the Depression. No, Social Security, public aid, Section 8, all of that stuff. And white people were the ones who had all of that. Stop it. Goofy, just goofy, don't know history at all. Was that what we need, another world war? And the Democrats keep your people down. How do they keep our people down? Don't even make sense. It don't keep your people down, do it? If it don't keep your people down, then it shouldn't keep our people down. Makes no sense. Goofy logic. Okay. Thanks, Lord. Goofy logic. You know, in order to balance the American budget, you would have to cut off Medicaid and Medicare significantly, restructure Social Security, and still increase taxes on top 1% by roughly 2% or more. Who knows? Who knows? We got smart people in this country. Smart people can figure out how we can get out of this debt. There's very smart people in this country. I'm banking on those smart people getting into office. I'm banking on the smart people wanting to run for office and get us out of this hole that this president. See, here's the thing, what y'all don't get. We were in a hole. We were getting out of the hole. We were climbing the ladder, getting out of the hole with Biden. Then Trump came in office and threw us back down the hole. Now we're in a hole. We're in a death spiral in the bottom of the barrel. Not able to pull ourselves out of it because they keep taking and taking and taking from us, the American people, and getting us into a war, getting us into issues here, issues there, issues here, issue there. We can't get out of the hole. This president pulled us back into the hole. Okay. What he said, these people on both sides don't care about us. Two sides of the same coin. One side is no, I'm sorry. The people that are in charge right now, those are the real criminals right there. If you haven't been reading about the corruption that's going on in this administration, then you just dishonest. Just be dishonest with somebody else, okay? Okay. I'm a crack you also on Clinton surplus. Well, yes, Clinton surplus. There's no both sides argument. There's no both sides. Okay. You see, my man, I live through eras and I'm boots on the ground about it. There are massive differences. Between us, our parties. You can't keep tax. Nobody said anything about taxing the rich. What I said was we need a fair, progressive tax structure. If I make $100, if I make $50,000 a year, I should be paying substantially less than somebody who's making $2 million a year. Okay. I can sound the most affordable in American currently, but this one would not want to hear the truth. Yeah, you can solve it. Why don't some of you smart people who know everything please apply for government so you can help us get out of this hole? Okay. That this president dragged us back into. Okay. Other Democrats wouldn't want to hear the truth. Republicans wouldn't want to hear. Nobody wants to hear the truth. Nobody wants to do the right thing. Nobody wants to do the right thing. Okay. The only reason you say increase property. No, I never said anything about increasing property taxes. Maybe you having a conversation in the chat, not me. Okay. Okay. You should increase the tax on the top 1%. No, there should be a progressive tax structure. That's what it should be. Either a progressive tax structure or a flat tax structure. One of the two. Okay. It should be one of those. But we shouldn't have the system that we have right now. Okay. Okay, you guys in there. Lord Naruki, Joseph E. Connell, welcome. You welcome. Y'all having a good discussion in that chat. Good welcome. Okay. That's correct. Okay. Yes, y'all having a big chat. So you're assuming that don't pay yeah, they talking to each other. Black America, hey, good evening, Black America. All presidents put us in a no. We got put in a let's be clear about something. Barack Obama got us out of the George Bush hole. We were in a surplus under Barack Obama. Donald Trump came along and started dragging us closer and closer to the hole. He drug us closer and closer to the hole. He kept giving us tax cuts, talking about wars, fighting, all of those things. Donald Trump did that. COVID hit, and COVID knocked us into a hole. Donald Trump kept us in that hole. Biden came along, and Biden started pulling us up the ladder. Biden got us a ladder and started pulling us out of the hole. Pulling us out. We get halfway, 1/3 there. We get 1/3 out of the hole. We climbing. And then Trump becomes president. And then Trump kicks us back down the hole. That's where we at. We're still in the hole because they're not allowing us to get our hole. They're stealing from our government. They closed a whole bunch of government program. Have y'all seen the recall of food and lettuce and berries all over the country because we don't have the staff in the government to sustain our way of life. You goofies don't understand how they hollowed out Doge, hollowed out our government, and now we don't have people in these very substantial positions protecting us. We are down a hole with this president, and they're not getting us out of this hole. We just down there because they feel like keeping us down there. Now we in the war. We get kicked back down into the hole because of a war. Now we getting recall on food, on fruit, on lettuce, on berries, down in the hole. Stop it. Stop it. That is what Trump is not a great president. Trump is the worst president that we have ever had. That's the worst president that we have ever had. That's the honest to God truth. President, that's the worst president that we have ever had. Okay? That's it. That's all. That is what happened, Black America. I don't know what you're looking at, but that is what happened. What war? Please don't try to gaslight me, bro. Don't try to gaslight me. I know about politics more than you know about politics. Don't try to gaslight me. Okay? So this is where we are. So please hit the like and the subscribe button. I appreciate it. I have content like this every evening around 10 o'clock. I release TikToks during the day, or shorts during the day about different subjects and different things that are going on in the world. I appreciate all of you guys showing up at this time, and I will see you tomorrow in the next video. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys.